Hello and welcome to Seattle City Makers. I'm your host, Jon Scholes. Welcome to our latest episode, where I'm joined by Ed Osckar, who is the CEO of Wowrack, a Seattle-based cloud computing company that Ed started with his partner in 2001 in an apartment here in Seattle. Just 6 servers that grew and outstripped the power supply in that little apartment, and then moved down to some space in U Village, and then eventually into the Weston Data Center building here in downtown Seattle. Ed and I discuss how he grew the company and immigrated here to the United States and ended up in Seattle at Seattle University. Shawn Kemp and the Sonics had something to do with that. Ed tells that story. And we talk about AI and Seattle's place in cloud computing and Wowrack's place in this vast ecosystem here that has significant presence of Amazon and Microsoft and other cloud computing and cloud-based companies and enterprises here in Seattle. So hope you enjoy my conversation with Ed Osckar, the CEO of Wowrack. Well, we just jump in here, Ed. So thanks for making time and coming in to talk to us about your company and how you built it in Seattle. And with a lot of folks who are entrepreneurs and innovators, I always like to start with the origin story around your company. I know a little bit about it, but why don't you share more around why and how you built Wowrack here in Seattle?
Yeah, so company was founded in 2001. This is a little short story about how we started. We were just college kids back then. I barely
You're
had
Seattle
my first
U
job. Yeah, I went to
grad?
Seattle U.
Yeah.
I went to Seattle U, graduated from Seattle U, majoring in finance, so nothing to do with technology.
Not computer science.
Not computer science. And personally, I got really late into computers, like 16-year-old, 17-year-old type of late, meaning like owning my first computer systems. But ever since I bought my first computer system from CompUSA back in the day, love it, like really love it. Spend just tons of times with it. Obviously, typically with gaming, with chats, with internet, just have whole fascination. I
remember the Oregon
entire
Trail.
internet.
That's what I was playing when I first
Oregon
got a
Trail,
computer.
yes.
Did you ever play
yes,
that? Yeah,
yes. That was back in the
90s,
day.
Whenever that was, late 90s or mid 90s.
Yeah. So that hobby kind of grew into like, hey, I want to learn everything about computer. And back in the day, it was Windows 98, right? So I went to Barnes & Noble, grabbed a book on Windows 98. It was probably about 300 pages and read every pages of it, tested all the dials and the buttons in Windows 98 in about 2 weeks. And I love it even more. So
I think I read that you didn't actually buy the book. You'd kind of go into Barnes & Noble, read a little bit, commit it to memory.
Yes,
walk out.
That was kind of after the Windows 98 because I love computers. So I started reading a lot more books.
These were other books.
These are other books.
Yeah.
And this books was very expensive back in the day for college kids.
For a college kid.
Yeah, so just spend a lot of the time in Barnes & Noble reading it and just absorbing as much as I can. And when I went back home to my apartment, I just tested what I learned. So from there, it just began. My computer IT career kind of started.
When did it transition from a hobby and general interest to you seeing yourself building a company and making a life out of this?
So, I wish that I can tell you it's all planned out, but it really wasn't. So it was just me and my partner. Back in the day in 2001, like I said, we were both just college kids, and we thought that, hey, we can do this. It's not that hard, right? So we put all of at least I did. I put all of my money into the company. It was $5,000 back then from my pocket, and I didn't even have $5,000. A lot of it was credit card spend. So we bought 7 computers. We bought a domain name. I learned how to build a website in 2 days because I didn't know how to build a website. So build a website in 2 days, and in August of 2001, voila, we started the hosting company, a web hosting company. So back in the day, it was hosting websites, hosting emails. And that quickly morphed into hosting dedicated servers, or what's called today as a bare metal servers. And we've been continuing to provide support to the tech industries, from back in the day in 2001 till today. Basically, in short, we take care of our customers' IT or cloud infrastructure.
And that was kind kind of a challenging time in the tech sector here in Seattle in 2001. Did did you get rolling pre-tech bubble bursting, or were you coming in after that?
It was right in between.
Right in the middle of it all.
Right in the middle of it all, and people were like asking the same questions.
Were you sweating?
No, like I said, we were just college kids. We didn't even think much about it. We didn't even know how to run a business. All we know is we just know how to keep computers and systems up online on the internet, and we're pretty good at it. So we kind of rode the wave, and luckily for us, and this, being here in Seattle, we feel very, very fortunate, because Seattle has a lot of tech talents, even back in the day, early 2000s. So we actually have done a lot of businesses in Seattle with a lot of technology startups. A lot of them here, right out of downtown Seattle. So we kind of rode the tech wave again from 2004 to 2008, 2009. I think at one point at the peak, we were probably doing business with 40 out of the top 100 Seattle tech startup back in the day.
All out of the beginnings at your apartment.
Yes, that's correct.
Seattle. So you had a bunch of servers crammed into this apartment. Do you remember what the electric bill was?
That is correct.
At its highest point.
That is very funny. So I'll tell you two stories. The first story is yes, we started it out of my partner's apartment. So we technically kicked him out from his one-bedroom apartment, from his bedroom.
No room for him to sleep
no room for him to sleep.
Servers.
Exactly. It was servers. We were just plugging it to the wall, and we started with 7, and I think by the time we left there, it was about 45 servers or something like that. We were out of power. I mean, it's an apartment building. It's not built for computers. Right?
Were you getting funny looks from your neighbors? Or they did not know what's going on?
They did not. Nobody knew what's going on.
Yeah,
it's a small apartment building here in North Seattle. But right after that, we moved into a small office building in University Village, University District area. And at that time, I think nobody knew about servers and electricity and how much it's consumed. So we just paid the regular triple net. So we never paid the electricity for the next 2 years, really, like anything extra out of just the triple net. That
was probably the last lease your landlord did in that way with the server provider, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But right after that, then we moved to downtown Seattle, right? We had to come to the source. And as a lot of people know, the Western building here in downtown Seattle is the tech hub. That's kind of
not the hotel, but
that is correct.
Yeah, the former Weston office building that is home to quite a few servers, right?
That is correct. Yeah, pretty much the whole building was accidentally kind of built out as a telecom hub for the region, and it grew from there. And today, it's probably one of the largest, probably the largest network hub here out of Pacific Northwest.
How do you mean accidentally? Just sort of organically over time, more and more folks.
Yes, that's correct.
Were wanting to locate servers, and their companies that were in that line of business ended up there.
Yeah, that's correct. So because Western Building, like I said earlier, it was built. It was one of the first home for many telecommunication companies, and a lot of network meets there, and a lot of networks are being provided to the city from that building. So organically, it just kind of grew from there.
And beyond, as I understand it, right? I mean, up and down the West Coast up to Alaska, a lot of communications, internet, and other channels rely on that building downtown.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very important building. It's a very big building. So a lot of West Coast traffic and even Pacific Asian traffic goes through the building.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was a few months ago that building landed on a list of a study of office buildings that could be converted to residential, and I saw that one on the list. I was like, I don't think that one's a true candidate. They obviously don't know what's going on inside.
Yeah, probably not that building.
Yeah. So you made it through the tech bubble bursting, and you got out of the apartment into University Village, and then you planted your flag downtown.
Yep.
And you've been growing the company ever since. What's the thumbnail on the company today as far as your scale and number of employees and presence in the market?
Yeah, so we're still headquartered here in Seattle. We're at about 200 people company today. And our expertise and our core services have grown from just hosting and infrastructure as a service to hybrid cloud infrastructure, managed cloud services, security services, and now AI services as well, for AI infrastructure services as well for companies that really want to dabble into AI.
And do you see that as the next significant growth area as AI continues to become a bigger part of our lives, and the technology space, it obviously requires a lot of cloud server support.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's a very new, I would say, frontier, right? But I think all indicators are moving that direction. Imagine having a systems smart enough to be able to automate a lot of different items, a lot of different things, and those requires huge amount of computer power, processing power, and also electrical power as well. I believe that we are just really barely starting to see the use cases. I think a lot of the big organization and enterprises are the one that started with AI, but probably in the next 2 to 3 years, it will hit the mid market and a lot of SMB and also a lot of consumers as well in the next 2 and 3 years, and that's when it really is going to boom, if not already today. Yeah.
So we often just expect all this stuff to work when we open our computer, when we log on, when we go to a website, and we don't really want to think about it. And then if it's not working, then we get irritated. We don't quite understand why. And we also don't think about the power demands on sort of the technology we rely on today. Give us a sense of what that means on a smaller scale that we can extrapolate out. What does a server draw? And then I want to get your thinking on the implications of AI, which has significant power demands, which I'm just learning now from you, and then EV technology as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with the IT infrastructure and the cloud computing infrastructure has become so reliable in the past few year, or maybe in the past decade, that people don't often think about it anymore. It's like utility.
Turn the water on and expect it to drip.
Absolutely, yeah. It needs to be always on, and but it has become a really important part of our life. And what really powers it in the back of it is plain simple electricity. To kind of give you a perspective, I think a typical U.S. homes probably is using an average about 2,000 to 3,000 watts, at a given time, and a typical computer rack today in a data center is probably using about 5 to 10,000 watts, basically like the power to power 3 homes or 4 homes in the U.S. The new AI rack today is probably expected to be using about 80 kilowatts to 100 kilowatts. So that is and that is in a footprint of 2 times 3 feet, right? It's a really, really small footprint in the data center. So the power utilization for those AI platform is easily 30 to 40x of what an average home in United States is using. So I think if not already an issue today, in many communities, we're going to see a lot of more power consumption in terms of being able to power all of this computer and cloud infrastructure needs, especially for the next gen AI-driven applications.
Do you think that might be a limitation that ends up being a good thing to sort of slow down the advancement and proliferation of AI and give us time to figure it out? Do you think in a weird way that the limitations that may exist with the power and electricity we have to fuel it ends up being a good thing?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. It could be a good thing.
Maybe not for someone in your business.
Yeah. But as anything that is that is commerce, that is business, that is finance. Yeah. If there is a profit, there's business to be made. Somebody will make it happen, right? Maybe it's not here in Seattle in our community, but somewhere out there that can provide them with all the electricity that they need, right? And I think I wouldn't think in the next 2 to 3 years it would necessarily slow the growth of AI. But if we keep with this explosion of electricity needs, there would definitely be a lot of contention between how to allocate electricity appropriately in any communities out there.
Yeah, we often don't think of those implications and the considerations and other factors as we think of the explosion of AI and EV technology and other things that all at the end of the day require more electricity.
Yeah, and I think being here in Seattle or Washington State, we are kind of fortunate in that most of our electricity are renewable, are hydro, and is fairly clean or is very clean. Other communities, especially outside of U.S., especially communities that doesn't even have nuclear power capability, not so much, right? And that will not only lead to you know contentions in how to allocate electricity, but impact to the community in terms of finances, in terms of electrical costs, or impact to the environment as well.
And I imagine too how it competes economically and otherwise with other communities and regions around the world that may be better situated with access to power that then fuels access to AI and utilization of AI.
Yeah, and it's already happening today. There are certain regions in the world, or even in U.S., there are that can generate a lot more power, cleaner and more inexpensive, and a lot of these high powered AI data centers, purpose-built AI data centers, are located in those communities.
So you've grown your company in a city and a region that is home now to the two biggest cloud providers in the world that were growing, or one in one case maybe didn't even exist. I'm trying to remember when Amazon Web Services came to be. Did you originate your company prior to AWS?
Yeah. It was prior to AWS. It was really back in the day with physical servers without virtualization technology. Yeah. So
what's it been like to be in a market with the two biggest players on the planet? As you watch them grow, was that helpful to you and your ability to attract talent, hire talent, and find your place in the market here?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been very exciting, right? I think one of the first impact to us is that the cloud and the smart people, is all these engineers, business people in the city who have maybe at one part of their life been a part of the Amazons, the Microsoft, all the big hyperscalers here that have started their own ventures or started their own startups and things like that. So that kind of help us grow as well, because a lot of those people also need cloud infrastructure and IT infrastructure, and they all started as a startup, started pretty small, right? So we were able to work with a lot of those folks. But fast forward today, I would say that we are also using the hyperscalers, the Amazon, the Google, and the Microsoft, as part of our offerings to our customers as a hybrid cloud infrastructure. So customers that needs to have their applications or their IT infrastructure in the hyperscalers, we're able to service that, and we're able to help manage and design and secure. But for some workload that is more appropriate in a private cloud or in a on-premise, in their business spaces or in the stadiums or whatnot, places where they do business, we can also help manage all of those three places and manage the hybrid cloud infrastructure for our customers.
And speaking of hybrid, is the way in which people are working today versus pre-pandemic, has that shifted your business at all? Is there more demand for your services because the way in which work has changed?
Yeah, I think in some ways or another it has. Especially we deal a lot with the SME, small medium enterprise, and the mid markets. As you know, the pandemic has shifted really how people work, right? And I mean, a lot of our clients have people started to go back to the office, but there are also a lot of clients who have kind of kept that hybrid work environment, or they have also hired outside of the city, right?
Right.
Outside of where their corporation is located in. So that brings in remote connectivity, or virtual desktops, or remote servers. That's even more needed for those people to be able to work together, really in a hybrid fashion.
So as you look back on your 20 plus years in growing this company, what advice do you have to entrepreneurs in Seattle that maybe are where you were 20 plus years ago with an idea and some curiosity?
Well, so I came from originally I was born and raised in Indonesia. So I was an immigrant here in this country, right? But right now I've been naturalized. I'm a U.S. citizen. But I can say
When did you come
that
to the U.S.?
I came to the U.S. in 1995 as a student. So that's why I was here, and that's when I went to Seattle U. But going back to your question, what I would say is that the opportunity here in the region, in the Seattle area, is just real, right? Real, and it's there. And as long as you work, you kind of grunt through it. And as a small business owner as well, I would say that you really have to kind of watch your spend and your return on investment, and still be very, very responsible with money and finances. I believe that's really how we're able to survive in the past 20 years, right? I mean, there's always going to be up and down, but being responsible with your finances and with your defenses, you're going to be able to weather the tough storm.
That's been a common theme with a lot of the entrepreneurs and small business owners that we've talked to on our podcast, whether you're in the business of ice cream or restaurants or technology, of knowing the numbers and paying close attention to the numbers as you're working to scale. Having a great idea is one thing, but making sure the numbers work and work today and tomorrow and next week is pretty critical to survival.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really what business is, right? It's not a hobby. And in some sense, you're responsible. Like, I mean, for me, I'm responsible for, the well-being of all my employees. And also because we are a service provider, we're also responsible for the well-being of our customers' infrastructure. So, I would liken it as a maybe the financial or bank industry, where you really need to understand your risk and watch your risk and manage it all the time. Yeah.
So we have a couple of standard questions on our podcast that we like to put to our guests. The first one is, what was your first job where you took a paycheck? So not like
a paycheck,
not paid cash as a 12-year-old to do some chores, but you took a paycheck for.
Yeah. So right after I graduated from Seattle U, I landed a job at PECAR, the truck building company, right? So this was PECAR Parts in Renton. So that was in probably mid 1998. So that was my first job.
What were you doing there?
I was there in the operation support, as operation support role. So a lot of just being in front of computers, looking into black screen and inputting data and making sense of it, and just making sure the operations of the company, just assisting with whatever they need. Yeah, it was my first job out of college.
And you decided to go on a different course for some of the reasons we talked about, but was that experience influential in some ways to your interest and curiosity in the early days of computers and the internet?
Yeah, I mean, big time, right? At the same time that I landed my first job there, I was really into computers as well. So I was always trying to figure out a way to get a computer or IT job back then. So I would remember right after school or in my free time, I would continue to read those really thick book, and I actually went on and got a Microsoft certifications back then. It was a Microsoft Systems Engineer certifications. So through that, I mean, with the help of that certification, I was able to leapfrog and actually got an IT job as a systems engineer.
And I didn't ask you, how did you end up in Seattle and choosing Seattle U as an immigrant to the country?
Very good question. So, when I was presented with some colleges choices, so I applied to a few colleges. I remember I applied to Oklahoma City, Oregon State, and also Seattle. And I picked Seattle back in the day because I love Shawn Kemp and Gary Payton. And watching NBA game is like my lifelong dream. So, I mean, it was a easy, choice for me at least. I just want to, go out there and watch Shawn Kemp.
And how ironic that they ended up going to Oklahoma. You said Oklahoma City was the other place
I know,
on the list.
yes, I know,
how ironic that.
It was, yeah. But
I guess more than a short time later, you had some.
Yeah, I had some good
10
runs.
years of Sonic basketball while you were here, right?
That's right, including going to NBA Finals and
that was a good run.
Yeah, that was Gary Payton and that
Late
Shrimp
90s.
and all those guys, Nate McMillan. So I love.
Are you as excited as everyone else seems to be in Seattle about the potential for the Sonics' return?
Of course, I mean every day.
How can you not be, right?
Yeah, every day, I'm just hoping and praying. To be honest with you, I haven't been much of an NBA fan.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but once they're back, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you lose your team, you kind of find interest in other teams and sports, and we've had a few that have come along since the Sonics left with Sounders and of course the Kraken, and so
yeah, I mean absolutely
plenty to keep our eyeballs occupied in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean love them all, Seahawks especially. So yeah, would love to have NBA back in our town.
Yeah. And our final standard question is, what's your perfect Saturday in Seattle? What are you doing? What are you, if you can design it from beginning to end?
Yeah.
What's your itinerary?
So I'm a runner. So I love to start my day very early in the morning. So, what I love to do is I would start in the Pike Place Market. So kind of around that area, that's where I would park my car. And then typically I would run south to the Stadium District. And from the Stadium District, I jump to the waterfront and run all the way up, all the way to where kind of Expedia is. And then I would look back down and go through Space Needle, go through the Sphere, and then I would end up in the Pike Market. Right, that's my perfect run route.
Yeah, it's a great loop.
Every Saturday.
It's only going to get better too in another 8 months or so.
Oh,
that waterfront's all done.
I can't wait for the waterfront. I'm so excited.
LA Bay
for
Connections project along the way with a great new protected path.
Absolutely, yeah. So I would typically end my run in the morning at Pike Market, and then it kind of starts from there, right? Maybe I got a coffee from Storyville. Maybe I love Le Panier, so I always get the croissant there. It's like one of my first lists.
You had the cinnamon roll from Storyville.
Oh yeah.
I think where you get the little jar of the frosting to drip on yourself. It's pretty. It's pretty spectacular. It kind of kills the run that you just did.
Exactly, or it rewards the run, right?
It rewards the run.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. So that's typically my morning. Typically in the daytime, I mean, if I'm still in the area, would love to get breakfast and some pancakes and things like that in the area. And if the day is nice, would probably continue the stroll somewhere in the waterfront. For happy hour, maybe go to Pike Market, spend some time in Old Stew Brewery.
Oh, Old Stove on
Brewery.
On the backside there.
Yeah. And like today is such a perfect day here when we're doing podcasts. It's sunny and bright. Would typically love to end my day in Aqua El Gaucho by the waterfront.
Yeah,
I
love it. It's a good downtown day.
It's a lovely day. It's what I'm really proud of it, and that's my normal route. If I have friends that comes to town and I want to show them Seattle, that's what I show them. Yeah,
those are great, iconic spots in Seattle and hard to replicate in other places.
Absolutely.
Do you make them run with you too?
Some of them.
Yeah.
Or at least walk. I'd walk with them.
Yeah. Well, terrific. Thanks for sharing your story about Wowrack and how you built the company and the state of the company today. And great to have you serving so many downtown and Seattle and regional organizations and companies like ours with your services. And congratulations on your growth and your story.
Yeah, I mean, likewise. Thanks for having me here. It is really, really exciting, to be part of Downtown Seattle Association. A lot of our businesses are from downtown Seattle. Still is in downtown Seattle. BSA at one point was also our client, back in the day. So we'd love to grow with the community, and we'd love to be able to provide our products and services, and and serve the community.
Terrific. And we're both got our fingers crossed for the return of the Sonics. I think it's a matter of when, not if, at this point. So
I'm sure it will happen.
It'll be a great day, and sooner rather than later is what I keep hearing. So
Yep, absolutely.
Well, thanks, Ed. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Ed, a fascinating individual that really exemplifies Seattle's entrepreneurial and innovative and risk-taking value set. Congratulations to him and his success and the company he's built. I want to close out with a recommendation of something you just got to check out in downtown Seattle. Often this is something brand new, or in this case, reopened. And I want to lift up and highlight the reopening of Fair Starts restaurant at 7th and Virginia. Has been closed since the early days of 2020 and just recently reopened last month, I think it was, in early July, or it might have been late June. But in any event, open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. They've completely refreshed the menu and the space. A complete remodel of the space there, serving breakfast and lunch 5 days a week on the corner of 7th and Virginia. So congratulations to Fair Start for getting their terrific restaurant space back open. Go check it out and support their important mission. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on this episode of Seattle City Makers, presented by the Downtown Seattle Association, with support from James Cito and production by Spark Creative.